Welcome to another exciting episode of Humanity 8.0, a podcast where we talk about our post-truth present and our transhuman future, with the aim of sketching out the outlines of what awaits us in the years and the decades ahead of us. This podcast is brought to you by Rokos. Companies with limited IT budgets and personnel can now get the same cybersecurity protection as big enterprises. Rokos' Secure Access Service Edge, SASE solution, with zero trust, provides enterprise-grade comprehensive cybersecurity so that you can focus on your business. For more, please visit www.rokos.com. That's ROQOS.com. And now, here's your host, Dr. Ahmed Bouzid, founder and CEO of Witlingo.
Adam Davidson, welcome to Humanity 8.0.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. It's really exciting to be here.
Well, for our guests, you heard how he said my name perfectly, and that's why, because this person here, Adam, speaks Arabic, I would say, really, really, really well. Right. So I'm impressed.
Well, thank you. We would lose the trail pretty quickly as we got into the intellectual stuff, but I did spend a few years in the Middle East, and I love Arabic, so it was really fun to learn it. Yeah.
I mean, language is such an asset, and also I think it is a way not only to simply express thoughts in another language, but it's a way of being.
Yeah.
Right? When you are speaking Arabic, you are imbued in a certain way of it's a gestalt in a way, you know.
I agree. I think something a lot of Americans at least don't understand about the Arab world is the culture of welcome, and it's extremely important to Arabs to be a wonderful host, to bring you into their house. And I feel when I speak Arabic, I'm sort of more polite, I'm more inviting, I'm more curious.
Yes, exactly. Same thing with me. When I switch to Arabic, I become I wouldn't say a different person, but sort of, I have more, like you're saying, more welcoming, more, it doesn't mean better, it's just different.
And
different.
Arab communication is also, I mean, it might be relevant in a way to Humanity 8.0, but it reminds me that at least in an American context, in a business communication, we tend to go directly to the details. And Arab communication, there's a lot of checking in. There's a lot of, it can be frustrating for impatient Americans. I've been frustrated sometimes. You just want to get to the subject, and it's
I don't have time.
half an hour of how are you? How's your mother? How's your family?
Yes. That's probably more, I would say, more Middle Eastern, because they, as you know, right, it changes from one, if you were to go to Algeria, you're probably more comfortable.
It's more fast-paced. Yeah.
More fast-paced, right? Again, Algeria is a country, so you'll have different regions. Some regions are really very easygoing and they take their time. But yeah, definitely, I think, and if you go to like certain countries in Africa, it's like an hour before you get into the subject.
Yeah. Right.
Wonderful. So we are here to talk about something that I personally have been very passionate about. And so it is very appropriate that the word passion is in the topic that we are going to touch on. And I will be using this book by Adam that you published in 2020, I believe, right?
Yes. It came out, 3 years ago. Yeah.
Called The Passion Economy, the New Rules for Thriving in the 21st Century. And I do think that the 21st century is going to be qualitatively and fundamentally different from 20th century, just as the 20th century was really fundamentally different from the 19th century. I think there are going to be new rules, and this book is going to help you. You definitely should read it to start outlining. I don't think we know everything. I think we are sort of finding our way there. Things are changing rapidly. But first, let me ask you this. If you were to give me a short paragraph long definition, if you want to call it that, of the passion economy, what would you say?
So the quick way I say it is that the 21st century can combine the best of the 19th century with the best of the 20th century. So the 19th century and most economies previously, there was enormous intimacy. If you were providing a product or a service, it was likely in a very local context, and you had real deep intimacy. You know, you're making bread for somebody and your grandfather made bread for their grandfather. You know, even in urban areas like New York might have a different brewery, a different baker, a different style of beer, say every 5 blocks. You know, it was very local and intimate, but there's virtually no scale. I mean, the long distance trade or high volume goods were only high luxury goods or real commodity products like rice or something. The 20th century is all about scale. It's all about selling the exact same commoditized product everywhere. So everyone's getting Wonder Bread, everyone's getting Snickers bars, everyone's getting Ivory soap all over the earth. And you see that in professional services, you know, the legal profession, the accounting profession, they become very standardized. Careers become standardized. We sort of become interchangeable units. There really wasn't a thing before the 20th century like the modern corporation with set jobs and set job titles and set career paths. What I believe, and lots of other people believe, I think you believe, is that the 21st century, we have this opportunity that really no one has ever had in the history of the world, which is intimacy at scale. So I can find those people who most crave my products and services as if we're all in a little village, but the village can be spread all over the world. And this allows for a fundamentally different way of working, way of creating companies, way of marketing and communication. It really is a transformative frame for almost every aspect, not just of our economic lives, but our family lives. I mean, we see from the 19th to 20th, we see a shift from agrarian-centered lives where it's like the old model where you're not just marrying somebody you love, your family is marrying another family, to an urbanized, atomized world. So I think dating is different. The way we conceive of our spiritual lives becomes different. Everything is different from this new change.
Yeah, definitely.
That might have been like 5 paragraphs. I'm sorry I went too long.
No, it was a good strong paragraph with several commas and semicolons.
Okay.
No, I think it is really useful actually to talk about it in terms of the best of those 2 centuries, because I do believe, and I agree with you 100%, that we're going back to a past where we were building something that we were passionate about, that we own, right? That is ours. We have members who work, folks who work within our company, if you want to call it that, that we know intimately, right? That are part of the family or our friends and so forth. And so it's a way of life that I think we lost in the 20th century, more or less. You know, at least those who don't own their own businesses, their own restaurant and all that. Most people, I don't know if it's most people actually, but a large number of people lost that. It becomes you fit somewhere here, and then if you don't like that job, you go some other place, right?
Yeah,
you are,
exactly.
I don't know, a copywriter or you know, whatever it may be. And so you don't have that attachment. And so it's interesting because I think what we are touching on, I believe, is the old Marxist insight that the means of production dictate how we live, right? Dating is a perfect example, right? And marriage, all that concept was something different in one era, how we made our living versus now. So I'm going to tell you about myself a little bit, just so that you can see that I am genuinely passionate about this for real. So forever, I don't know, until I was in my late 30s, 40s, early 40s, I was basically somebody who was climbing the corporate ladder, right? And I did that well enough to earn my raises and so on. But I always had, I'm sure that everybody who is in that world, corporate world, I had knots in my stomach, right? feeling a little bit nauseous every single day. I mean, honestly, right? Because things are not under your control. You're not doing, most of the things that you're doing is posturing, doing stuff that is irrational. Why are we doing this? Well, it's because somebody said we should do this. Okay, well, why are we doing this? Well, it's above your pay grade. Just do it, right? And so you have a lot of that happening, right? And so about, I don't know, 8 years ago, I said, enough of that. I had made enough money. I quit my job at Amazon, which was making, and I was making quite a bit of money at that point. And I said, look, this is not how I'm going to live the rest of my life. I can easily see myself just like that 10 more years go. And I'm still living that life of a stomach churning. What
Yeah.
is the boss thinking about me? Blah, 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 right? The things that worry us all the time, give us anxiety. And so I turned into building my own company. And so I want to point to the fact that my day in my life, my relationship with my son and my wife and my family and my friends completely changed, in the sense that I have more time for them. Not only do I have more time for them, but I have more peace of mind to do the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
I play the bass, I practice every day for just the purpose of, just because I want to get better. I write, I go visit places that I would not, hang out with my wife more and so on. There's no way in hell that I could have done that. Not only because I wouldn't have had enough time, but also I wouldn't have enough peace of mind, right? So
Right.
anyway, I wanted to bring that into this, just so that you see that I am coming to this not academically, but I've always believed that um, this is a better life than the life of someone who even maybe making more money, but is under the thumb of, or doing something that they're not really passionate about. Not that everybody out there in corporate world is not doing something passionate about, but still, not as many things are under your control. There's a lot of risk, of course. There's a lot of risk. Everybody needs to know that. But at least you're able to learn from your mistakes, and the learning is rational. You're making this mistake, it may, and you move on all that. So I wanted to put that on the table. Now, the next thing I want to touch on is the following. So you said that now we have the ability to do local or focused or passionate work at a scalable way. Okay. So instead of reaching just my community, I can reach, thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, depending on how good I am at marketing my product and how much of a need there's out there and so on. Right. Now, can you tell me how that situation, or how that, combination of, focused, doing something you're passionate about, and scale, which means, okay, then you have to maybe raise money so that you can do the marketing that you need to do, maybe bringing some other folks who are going to be part of this new ecosystem, who don't necessarily share, right? They're all about making money, and so they come in and bringing some values and some pressures that might that might that might make that desire to scale start to conflict with the ethos of what you want to do, which is, I'm in control, it's local, I'm focused on quality. I don't want to be ultra rich. I just want to have a comfortable living. And maybe I want to pass on this nice, beautiful company to my son or my daughter or whatever, if they want to do that. Talk to me about that tension, if there is tension there.
Yeah. And just to start a little bit with my own story, which I don't think I've related this before, but you inspired me.
Please.
My book came out in 2020, and it's a book celebrating taking this path into passion. But when it came out and I was giving speeches, and it made me realize that I didn't follow my own advice, that I had a very good career as a writer, journalist. I was at NPR. I created Planet Money. I then went to the New York Times, then to the New Yorker. So in this kind of career path, I sort of had my dream career. I couldn't have written it better. But I realized, just like what you said, that I was really defining myself externally. What does my boss think? What does this career trajectory think?
Yeah.
And I thought maybe I should take some of my own medicine. And for a whole bunch of reasons, my family moved from New York City to a farm in Vermont, and I turned 50 and I published this book, and I decided, all right, I'm going to do it. And what I learned is it's both way better, but also way harder than I realized. And it's way better for all the reasons you said, that I have been able to flourish in a lot of ways. I've made decent money. I've really had profound connections with people. And it's way harder because the one real advantage of following a clear path is that there is a clear path. And if you are saying, I'm going to carve my own path, you're going to make mistakes. Something that I find, and I'm surprised how insecure I can be, but when I talk to people from my old life, when I talk to journalists, I find myself really worried that maybe they think I was fired or I failed, because in the logic of the system I was in for the first 30
You
years of my
don't do that.
career.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one goes to the New Yorker and then quits the New Yorker.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. And so I must have been fired. I must have been ashamed.
I had the exact same anxiety about Amazon. Like, how could you have left Amazon?
Yeah.
I mean, and like, because go on, I interrupted you.
No, exactly. Because I want to do different things. So what I would say is two things, two big lessons for me. So one is part of embracing this passion life is realizing that the way you structure your interaction with the people who pay you money is part of the creative path. So by which I mean, so take me, I was a writer. I thought my creative work is writing. And then there's a structure. I have a boss, there's an organization. They tell me what I should write. They tell me how long it should be. They tell me, and then someone in the building, I never will meet them, is responsible for getting money. They do subscriptions or ad sales and somewhere out there are the people paying for the articles I write or the radio stories I write. And I don't really know. I know generally kind of a sense, but I don't really know much about them. So part of the opportunity and the challenge of the passion economy is you are much more directly engaged with the ways. Now, you could put it cynically, you're selling, you're hustling, but you could also say you are really forced to understand what is the value I am adding and who most values that. And that can be a profound and exciting opportunity. And then you're really, the word business model to me, it doesn't sound magical. It doesn't sound mysterious, but really understanding your business model, there's something wonderful about it. It's really engaging. How do I add value in the world? Whose life do I make better in the world? And how much is that worth to them? And then how do I set my life up so I'm doing that? The other thing that was really important to me in my book, because I try and read almost every business book that gets on the top sellers. And to me, there's a hidden assumption in every business book, which is you just want the most money possible. Like, how can you make the most money possible? And I think you've said a bunch of things that really resonate for me, which is if you want to be a billionaire, there's a path. You either, go to venture capital, and do that. It's not a guarantee, but that's a path. If you want to have a lot of millions, the easiest way, go to finance. Just when you get out of college, go to Goldman Sachs or wherever and try and succeed. But I know a lot of those people. I don't see them as happier. I don't see them as, sometimes I'm jealous. I'd like my own private jet and I'd like, but I don't see them. I mean, you look at, I don't look at Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos and think, wow, those people are really happy. They're really content with their lives. I look at them as infinitely hungry, desperate people. It's something sad about them.
It's true.
And so part of this creative process that you're engaging is what is my values? What are my values? And what do I want? And I'm finding the way I picture it, I worked in audio for a long time. So we have like the soundboard where there's all sorts of dials, you can increase the bass, increase the treble, decrease it. I have a bunch of dials that I didn't used to have. If I want to take my family on a really nice vacation, I can work a little harder for a few months, make a lot more money. If I want to spend the summer just hanging out, I can dial that back down. Sometimes I do projects largely for money, although I always do projects that I like. I don't do anything I don't like. Sometimes I do projects entirely for fun, and they really are not lucrative. Sometimes I do a mix of both. And that's just, it's a range of options that I didn't have 5 years ago. I couldn't go to my boss and say, this month I'd really like you to pay me twice as much. Can you just do that? Because I feel like I want that.
I'm going to work hard.
Or this month I'm okay making less money and I'm only going to write articles I want to write. And so, you know, the boss would say, shut up, do your job. You know,
That's not how it works.
that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
how it works.
Yeah, the
So
palette, right? The palette is sort of like it's the canvas, and you have lots of colors, and you can do whatever you want when you want it.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, and I think that it is an adjustment. It's a hard adjustment.
It is.
Yes, and I think I'm guessing you had more money when you made this adjustment. I didn't have a big savings, so it's a little scary. It's a little raw.
No, it's always scary. It's always scary.
It's always scary.
It's against the plans that you had, right?
Yes,
I had
exactly.
these plans, right? And now I'm putting those plans in jeopardy. But go on.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But when I talk to friends, I tell them who are still in the old system, I say to them that my instinct is it is short-term riskier. Like in the first 2, 3, 4 years, you're almost by definition inviting a lot more variability in your income and your satisfaction and your time. But my instinct is as we get deeper and deeper into the 21st century, it's actually more secure to know how to manage risk. Like I look at NPR, National Public Radio, where I worked for many years. You know, I kind of took this leap, and a few weeks ago, 10% of the workforce was laid off.
Yeah.
If I, as a man in my 50s, if I was laid off and I only then had to learn how to do this work.
It's panic time.
It's panic time. And probably your life is just worse for the rest of your life. It's very, very hard.
First, the anxiety, right? That will overwhelm you. You won't be able to move.
Yes.
For weeks. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, because even though I was still working in these places, because I was working on the book, I was thinking about this. I was immersing myself. I was doing side projects. So I probably had a decade head start before I jumped of beginning to think about how to structure my life in this new way. If I had waited and then got laid off and then had to start this whole process, I think I would not be living in a beautiful farmhouse in Vermont. I wouldn't be able to afford it. I would have to be hustling, closer. Anyway, so yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, especially now, anyone who just puts all their baskets in one, or all their eggs in one basket, meaning the only source of revenue maybe is, or 90% of it is their job, or their job and their wife's job. I think they are playing with fire, especially given the disruptions that are coming up in terms of displacement of white collar jobs with this AI that's coming up, right? A lot of people are imminently right now in danger. And therefore, I'm gonna do it one more time here. The book, get the book, right? Because it will help you understand that it's doable. I mean, to be honest with you, if you are in your 30s, right, meaning you're not somebody who just came out of college and you don't know how the world works and you haven't been an employee. I think people need to be employees to be good bosses, right? But if you are in your 30s and you've had under your belt, I don't know, 10 years of work, I think it would be foolish of you to just try to build a career in one company or on one track. There are so many ways to create multiple streams of revenue today, right? You could write a book, you could create a little company, you could whatever, you could do 6 or 7 things. And then those streams of revenue, after a while, they become like, okay, I could lose my job and I'm still okay, right? And you could grow those streams because you're learning as you go. And so whenever I meet someone who is, let's say, young in their 30s, like, you should at least start something on the side. Just start.
I 100% agree. And there are 2 things in my mind. There are 2 things you're building. So one thing is actual other revenue, but in my mind, even more importantly, you're learning how to build revenue.
Exactly.
And
you're going to make so many mistakes that after a couple of years, you will be on solid ground because you will build an instinct and also learning, right?
Yes, exactly. And there's infinite ways to do it now. This is a fundamental change in how economies work, that if you look at, I was going to say the 1950s, let's say the 1980s. I mean, not even that long, like when I was in high school, let's say there were 300 ways to make a living roughly, now there are 300,000 ways to make a living. I mean, you can literally just wake up in the morning and think, I have this problem. I bet other people have this problem. I'm going to just write about it. And I'm going to, you can go on Reddit, you can find a community that's thinking about this problem. You can learn different solutions, you can identify. And when I say problem, I mean, it could be a physical product. It could be just a way of thinking. I mean, I'm thinking right now of launching a whole side business about how creative writers should think about AI, because it's a fundamental shift. And I don't need every creative writer. Like I could, in theory, if I built a nice tool, say, or a nice framework, and I got 1,000 people to spend $10 a month, that's a huge, like, that's now a cushion that's fabulous. And
it is fabulous. And it's also robust, right? I mean, you could lose some and gain some, and then it's not like it's not like a job.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, poof, it goes, right? Might go a little bit, might go up.
Oh no,
and if can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, now we're fine. I just froze for a sec. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think and also, by the way, right, which with every passing year, I'm like, what are you waiting for? To my friends, my younger friends, given that every year there are more tools that make it easier to launch a business. So for example, right, let's say you want to do what you want to do, which is, a business that enables folks to gain skills through your program, to become better writers within the age of generative AI and ChatGPT, right? Say you wanted to do that, right? So you need to have a website. You need to have that website that has to have a payment system. You need to have videos, blah, 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 right? All of those things today can be done cheaply. You could hire someone who can say, do this to me from Upwork, another resource, right? And then, I don't know, $300, $400, $1,000, you'll get it. You'll get all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then hire another guy or woman to create your LinkedIn sales campaign or your Facebook sales campaign.
And it's all affordable. And it's not like you have to plug down, like in the old days, PR. Okay, at least $5,000 for me to talk to you. No, you can do it in hundreds of dollars, maybe dozens of dollars, to be honest with you. Many things. I need a little graphic. I can get it for $15 and it's beautiful.
And actually, I do have a new company, and the best logo, we hired a bunch of people on Upwork and Fiverr, but the best logo was just an AI tool that created a logo.
In fact, now it's every month it's getting easier. Right?
The way I think about this issue is the 20th century, the core engine of economic success, first of all, it was at the large company level, and it was on the operations side. So what you saw is the work of developing a new product. In the book, I talk about the Snickers bar as just an easy example. So there was some work figuring out the Snickers bar. It was, obviously Snickers are delicious. They really had some thoughts about it, but really it was engineered to be mass producible. That the insight that Frank and Forrest Mars, the father and son, had is that people really valued chocolate, and they wanted something that looked like it was a lot of chocolate, but actually had very little chocolate because it was expensive. So how can we make something look like it has a lot of chocolate? They also had this insight that you want something hard that can be easily pushed through a mass production machine. So they came up with this idea of nougat. As nougat or taron it's a Mediterranean dessert that wasn't really in the American diet at the time, but they came up with this idea of basically giant industrialized nougat manufacturing, where there's just the tiniest bit of chocolate on it, a little bit of nut, a little bit of caramel. So they finished that in 1929. Like the Snickers bar you eat today was finished in almost 100 years ago. Where their success came from was distribution and marketing. And distribution was really hard back then. They were in Minneapolis, and they moved to Chicago, and they had to create relationships with thousands of smaller candy distributors all over the country. They had to either buy trucks or find a way to efficiently fill trucks and train cars. You had to be a massive corporation for distribution. If you and I dreamed up like an amazing new dessert, it would be trivially easy right now for us to hire a food chemist to create it, for us to hire a drop shipper to or hire a co-packer to manufacture it, hire a,
Yep.
we could literally in 3 months create
Yep.
a beautiful dessert, create a
Yep.
marketing campaign, spread it all over the world.
Yeah, and all we would need is Zoom, email.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
Google Drive.
And a few grand on a credit card. And
And
or we don't even need that if we do like a Kickstarter thing where we're,
Yeah.
oh, this is this amazing Algerian dessert that
Yeah.
everyone's going to love. And so what that means, though, which to me is a profound thing, both as we're talking a lot about how to be a producer of value, how to sell a product or service, but also as a consumer, it means that the energy is not on sort of the back office stuff, shipping and logistics, advertising. The energy is on creating that magical product.
That's right.
And creating and that business will work. So if the Mars company wants to sell Snickers bars in San Jose, California, they have to create a system that sells to everyone between Chicago and San Jose. They have to just saturate the market or else the numbers don't work.
Yeah.
But you and I could create a candy. Maybe we should do it. Let's taste some. There's some great, like, I love kanafe for breakfast. That's like a great sweet Arabic cheese that isn't popular here. But we could do it. And maybe there's 10,000 people around the world who love it, or 100,000. And we don't need mass production. And we'll make less money. We're probably not going to become billionaires, but we could easily create a sustainable business.
Absolutely.
Where our focus is on what do people love, not creating the same exact product for everybody, but a special product for specific groups of people who will have that passion, who will love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to give the example of YouTube, right? Where I go now. That's the place where I spend most of my time, to be honest with you now, because that's where I find, for example, and there are dozens of them, maybe more than dozens of these folks who teach you how to play the bass, right? Bass guitar, right? And they are fabulous. And in terms of the passion, the production quality, the way they break down their lessons, the way they teach, right? So these are folks who have a constellation of talent, which is, first of all, the passion for the bass. Number two, they know how to present. Number three, they're comfortable with technology, or probably they know how to bring people together, right? And they have a model, which is, there's free stuff and there are subscription packages, and they're able to make their living doing that. And you can see that every day they are happy. At least they seem to be happy, right?
Yeah.
Now imagine a company hiring someone or a team to do that. There's no way in hell it would be as beautiful as that. There isn't purity. That's it. I can't imagine. I mean, if you look at all the beautiful product that we use, at least, let's say I use in my daily life as a product manager within my company, I used to use Slack, which was not created by any of the big giants. It was acquired. I use Trello. Trello is another tool that is beautiful, that was acquired.
Yeah.
Everything that is Zoom was not created by Amazon. These guys, they have, or Google, right? These guys, they have pockets that are deeper than deep, right? But they were not able to create that beautiful, focused product, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so for me, just like you were saying, it didn't take much. I don't think it didn't take much for the bass folks to create their thing. And the beauty is they started small. They probably started like once every month. They did an episode because they had a job, and then they learned and they learned and learned. They got to a point right now where, I'm just stunned by the quality. Another one is.
You've been listening to Humanity 8.0 with your host, Dr. Ahmed Bouzid, founder and CEO of Witlingo. Brought to you by Rokos. Thanks for listening.